The untold assassination attempts on U.S. presidents. You've heard of Abraham Lincoln. You've heard of John F. Kennedy. Their assassinations shook the world. But what if I told you that two women once tried to shoot President Gerald Ford, just weeks apart? That Ronald Reagan laughed moments before a bullet nearly pierced his heart? That one president beat down his assassin with a cane, after both of the man's pistols misfired? This is not just history. This is the shadowy world of power, madness, and bullets that never made it to the headlines. Welcome to the hidden history of presidential assassination attempts you've probably never heard of. And once you start, you won't be able to stop. Part 1: Why are U.S. presidents constant targets? The United States is one of the few nations in the world where the leader, elected by the people, is often a symbol of both admiration and hatred. In a country built on rebellion, liberty, and armed independence, the president isn't just a politician. He's a walking target for ideologies, conspiracies, and sometimes, raw insanity. Political turbulence has always shaped assassination risk. The Civil War era, tensions of slavery, secession, and nationalism made Lincoln a target the moment he entered office. The Cold War, with nuclear threats, espionage, and communist paranoia, the Oval Office became a Cold War front line. The Vietnam era, the rise of anti-war sentiment, counterculture, and radicalism saw hatred toward U.S. leadership reach deadly levels. And with every failed attempt came a revision of the president's security, from no protection at all, to armored limousines and code names. As we explore these cases, remember, some men lived because a bullet missed, or a gun jammed, or history blinked. Part 2: Shocking assassination attempts. 1. Andrew Jackson, 1835. The duelist who wouldn't die. What happens when a president faces down a gunman, and wins? Not with security, but with sheer rage? Jackson was a deeply polarizing figure. His aggressive dismantling of the Second Bank of the U.S., expansionist policies, and stance against Native American rights created fierce enemies. Richard Lawrence believed Jackson had sabotaged his chances of becoming King of England, an idea born from severe paranoid delusions. Jackson was leaving a funeral when Lawrence attempted to shoot him at point-blank range with two pistols. Both misfired. Jackson, 67 years old, attacked Lawrence with a cane, beating him until guards restrained him, sparked early discussions on presidential protection and the mental state of political attackers. Abraham Lincoln, 1865, the man who saw it coming. The dream that foretold a president's own funeral, days before his death. Lincoln had just led the Union to victory in the Civil War and was preparing to rebuild the nation. His progressive stance on emancipation angered many. John Wilkes Booth, an actor and Southern sympathizer, saw Lincoln as a tyrant destroying the South. Booth shot Lincoln in the back of the head during a performance at Ford's Theater. Lincoln had reportedly dreamt of a presidential funeral days earlier. Lincoln's death threw the country into mourning and left Reconstruction in unstable hands. Theodore Roosevelt, 1912. The bullet-stopping manuscript. What if your speech could save your life? Literally. Running for president again as a progressive, Roosevelt had many enemies across party lines. John Schrank claimed he was ordered in a dream by McKinley's ghost to kill Roosevelt. Schrank shot Roosevelt in the chest before a speech in Milwaukee. The bullet was slowed by a 50-page speech and eyeglass case in Roosevelt's pocket. He gave his 90-minute speech anyway. Boosted Roosevelt's legendary image. He lived with the bullet lodged in his body for the rest of his life. Franklin D. Roosevelt, 1933, a missed shot. A dead mayor. The bullet wasn't meant for him, but history turned on it anyway. FDR had just been elected during the Great Depression and was preparing to reshape America. Giuseppe Zangara hated powerful politicians and blamed them for his chronic illness. He fired 5 shots at Roosevelt during a speech in Miami. He missed, but killed Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak. Some speculated Cermak was the intended target due to mob connections. elevated FDR's public image and created early momentum for his presidency. Harry S. Truman, 1950, gunfight at Blair House. A presidential gunfight in broad daylight, on Pennsylvania Avenue. Truman supported U.S. control over Puerto Rico and had just committed troops to Korea. Oscar Collazo and Griselio Torresola were Puerto Rican nationalists seeking to draw attention to their cause. They attempted to storm Blair House, where Truman was staying. A violent shootout ensued. One guard and one assailant were killed. Truman was unharmed but witnessed the shootout from inside. Highlighted the volatility of U.S. colonial relations and security vulnerabilities. John F. Kennedy, 1963. The Day America Cried. A perfect shot, a silent crowd, and a conspiracy that never dies. Kennedy faced Cold War pressure, civil rights protests, and internal enemies in government. Officially, Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, though he had defected to the Soviet Union. Kennedy was shot in a motorcade in Dallas. The Zapruder film captured the moment. Debate over the number of shooters and Oswald's role continues to this day. The assassination traumatized the nation and led to long-lasting distrust in government. Gerald Ford, 1975. The president targeted twice in 17 days. 2 women, 2 guns, same target, different cities. Post-Watergate America was deeply cynical. Ford was seen as an accidental president. Lynette Squeaky Fromm was a Manson cult member. Sarah Jane Moore was a radical leftist. Fromm's gun misfired in Sacramento. Moore's shot in San Francisco was deflected by a bystander. Moore had been questioned by the Secret Service just days before the attempt. Exposed gaps in mental health tracking and presidential security. Ronald Reagan, 1981. The bullet that almost changed history. A twisted love obsession nearly killed the leader of the free world. Reagan had just taken office, promising to revive America's economy and military. John Hinckley Jr. was obsessed with actress Jodie Foster and sought to impress her. Hinckley fired 6 shots outside the Washington Hilton, striking Reagan and 3 others. The bullet missed Reagan's heart by less than an inch. He walked into the hospital himself. Reagan's resilience became part of his legacy, led to the Brady Bill and new protocols for mental health evaluations. Part 3: Conspiracies and Unanswered Questions. Includes JFK conspiracy breakdowns, Grassy Knoll, Mafia, CIA, LBJ, Reagan-Hinckley Bush connection theories, Puerto Rican nationalist suspicions under Truman, hidden plots from Nixon to Bush, and the recurring pattern of insanity pleas and classified files. Part 4: Lessons, Legacies and What History Tried to Teach U.S. History doesn't just record the shots that hit. It remembers the ones that missed, and asks why they were fired in the first place. Shield: How assassination attempts changed American security. The rise of the Secret Service, originally created to prevent counterfeiting. The Secret Service's role expanded dramatically after McKinley's assassination. From open carriages to armored tanks, the transition from public access to tightly controlled presidential movements. Evolving protocols. Today, AI surveillance, facial recognition, and sniper teams form invisible layers of protection. How these events changed policy and politics. Civil rights and public sympathy. JFK's death accelerated Lyndon B. Johnson's push for the Civil Rights Act. Gun reform. Reagan's shooting led to the Brady Bill, which enforced background checks on firearm purchases. Mental health system reform. Multiple attackers labeled insane sparked public pressure for better psychiatric care and better oversight. Brain: What We Still Haven't Learned. Media sensationalism versus silence. Some attempts were overblown, others buried. Political weaponization of mental illness. Labeling shooters as mad sometimes closed the door to harder questions. Lack of transparency. From JFK's files to Reagan-era blackouts. The truth still lives in redacted documents. Heartbreak: Final reflections. Behind every failed shot is a story. A fragile mind, a broken system, A moment that could have altered the arc of history. Some assassins were mad, some believed they were righteous. Others might have been tools in larger games. But one truth holds. These attempts didn't just target men, they aimed at movements, at change, at chaos and control. Sometimes, the bullets that miss are the ones that change the world the most. And sometimes, the stories you never hear are the ones that matter most.